Hello, good afternoon. My name is Jose Rocha, and I'm from the quality assurance software team in .NET. Today, I want to present the training for unit testing and code coverage in Visual Studio 2013. And I'm going to present the main tools that have been implemented. I'm going to show you a quick view of the overview about the unit testing, the unit testing at database level, and the code coverage. Then I'm going to move on to creating a test project. After that, we are going to see the main structure of a test class, followed by the window of Test Explorer and code coverage. And finally, we want to see how the unit testing and database works. Okay, so let's move on first on what the unit testing is. The unit testing is a powerful tool that has been implemented nowadays with most of the projects. And this is a very important work methodology because uh, right now we need to test even the backend of our code by the minimal section, which is the each method. And to implement uh, the unit testing, we need to uh, we need to create it even before the development starts. So what I mean is the developers need to adapt their work to the conditions of the unit testing. Okay, after saying that, the tester needs to know how the methods are going to work, what do they need to work correctly, and what are you going to expect in the result. The unit testing, uh, you could have a lot of methods in your solution, in your project, but it's not really necessary to test each one of them. You don't need to test all of your methods that you have on your solution. But what you need to do is to test the most important methods that you think that you know that are going to pass by most of the solution, by most of the project, and and you need to know even with the development team which methods are there. For example, let's say I'm working on an MVC web application. And in the development, there is the view and the controller, but I know that all of those methods uh, are going to pass. Sorry, are gonna be dependent of the business process of the models, not the models of the business process. All right. So what I can do is create unit tests for my models. Let's say I have five models, and for each model I have five methods. What I'm gonna do is create a test class for model, for each single class, and then for each method in that model, in that class, I need to create two test methods. One to expect the results are good, are great, and the other one to expect, let's say, no results, that something is going to fail. But, well, if you're expecting to fail, you need to give uh, and retrieve the expected data to fail in order to give a test condition and say this method is going to fail, and if it fails, remember equals to equals is true. So it's kind of like this. Alright, so um, in order to see your unit testing, you could watch it on the Test Explorer. Test Explorer is a window that you can find in your Visual Studio. You just go right here, and in your main menu you have Test, Windows, Test Explorer. Here you could see all of your unit testing, your test methods that you are currently running, or that you currently have in your last build. And well, here you could run all of your test methods, your failed methods, or even just the methods that you haven't run before. And well, this actually creates results, percentage results in the code coverage window, which you can find even here in the main menu, test, Windows, code coverage results, sorry. Here you can see how many of the percentage, how many percentage of the code you are currently covering. Remember, you don't need to cover all of the methods that you already have. You just need to cover the most important. Alright, and well, having said about all that about the unit testing, we can move on to create our first unit test project. So we're going to Visual Studio 2013. We're going to open a new window and create a new project. As you remember, the unit test has to be done even before the whole project. So let's say we're going to build a web application. I would like to work. I want to close this. I don't know why it was open. Okay. I want to create a new web application project. Let's say I would like to use the MVC ASP.NET web application. I'm going to click OK, and then just after that I'm going to choose I would like to create an MVC project, and here I'm going to click on this checkbox to add the unit test, and let's say the test project name will be web application 1.test. I'm gonna host in the cloud right now. This is an example of how to create the test project at the beginning of any web application. I'm gonna click OK. Let's wait. And in that way, in that order, you can work with your unit testing project on the hand with the web application project, and you keep working. I don't know. You have your quality and assurance member of the team working on that side, while you developer are working in the model, on the view, etc., etc. Alright, so I'm gonna close this. I'm gonna move on to the Solution Explorer, and here I can see my web application one.test. Here I have already created a controller folder, and here is my first unit testing class. Okay, we have already seen how to create a test project. We could even create a new test class. Just let's wait to this result to response. We're gonna move on to Solution Explorer and to the test project. I don't know what's going on there. I'm gonna continue. And here in my folder, let's say I'm going to add another unit testing for my controller, so I'm gonna give a right click, add. Okay, something's wrong there. I don't know why I can't. Oh, sorry. It was running my application. My application was already running. So that was. Here I am again. Right click. I'm gonna add a new class. And here in install, I'm going to move to test, and let's select the unit test, the unit test framework or new item. I'm gonna add it. I didn't choose any name for it. It's just to let you see how a unit test class can be created. How can you identify it is a unit test class? Simple. Before the name of the declaration of the class, it has here this attribute test class. This will indicate this class is going to work specifically for the unit testing, that it's gonna be displayed in the Test Explorer, and it's kind of the same. Well, here is a constructor. Actually, we are not going to use this. And here is where everything starts. There is a method. Once again, as the class, we need to specify these methods are going to be test methods, right? So we need to add the attribute test methods. Test method. And that's the way how we can identify the methods that are specifically for the unit testing. Okay, let's move on to the main structure of a test class. I'm gonna open another, let's say another project where I have already created a better structure of my text class. Let's move on. Let's move this right here, this right here. Come down, boy. Okay. No. No. Here I am. This is the main structure of a test class. Here it is. I like to specify this section because it is very important to know where the test class begins and where it ends. So in order to know it, to specify, we need to add the I'm sorry, I always forget the name of this thing. The attribute of a test initialize. Here the test initialize is like my constructor. I can call all the methods that I want to be run before the test method, the unit testing, because I don't know which is gonna be the flow, the order of the unit testing. Which method is gonna be run first, which second, I don't know. So what I'm gonna do right here is what I need to be run first, what I need to do before those unit tests runs. I'm gonna declare it right here, and let's put all what I wanna do. In this case, want to load data entities. It's gonna be done right here before my test method's execution. Alright, so here's my test initialize. Here's what I want to do before. Here are my main test methods, and with the attribute of test method, and here is the important structure of a method of this class. They have to have three sections: the arrange, the act, and the assert section. How do they work? The arrange section, it will be for declaring of the variables that we are going to use, that we are going to need, in order to, I don't know, if we have methods that require parameters, those parameters are going to be declared right there. Alright, so that's for the arrange section. We are declaring the things we need, and then we move on to the act section. In the act section, we are going to call specify the methods that we are going to test, passing the parameters or values that we have already created in the arrange section. And most of the times the act section is just one line of code. It doesn't have to be more, because we are just testing one functionality, and that should be it. Then finally we have the assert section, where we are going to spec if the result is going to be equal to something. I'm sorry, if the results are not equal to anything that we have declared, if are the same or not, if it failed, if it's false, if it's true, if it's null, if it's not null. All those options are that we have to test, or to know if our test pass or not. One important thing to know about the unit testing and the assert section: we cannot have more than one assert by method. I mean, if you're going to test a method, you need to know what is the most important thing that you know that you have to test, what you are going to spec, and that is going to be the assert for no one else. No more asserts. Alright? So for each method you need to apply just one assert. Then for something else, for each method we need to create two test methods. As I said before, one to expect one who will expect that it fails, but as it's gonna fail and you're expecting in your asset to fail, to be equal to something, I don't know, it's going to pass. And the other one which is going to spec the preference result that doesn't fail, and in your answer you have to spec the same to let this test method pass. In this case I have this in fail because I was working on it before, and I have to fix it. I'm gonna fix it right now. Okay, I think everything is okay. It's gonna build my solution for my project. And I'm gonna, well, I don't need to move to the test explorer to run all the tests of this test specifically. If I already know which tests I want to run, what I just need to do when the build is already succeed is click on this little icon and set there is run. So I click on run, it runs, and I'm just waiting. And it has already passed. And if I go to my test explorer, the only one that is gonna be like highlighted is the last one that I have already tested or run. Okay, so that will be the structure for my test method. And finally, I have the structure, the end structure of my test cleanup. Here is where I'm going to end my whole test class. And in this case, if I had a test initialize where I created some data objects that I needed, I obviously needed a string connection, a SQL Server connection. Where here in my test cleanup, I'm gonna do my dispose. I'm going to close that connection, and I'm gonna do all the things that I need to do before I end with this test class. So here, if I created an object in my database, I don't want a lot of objects to be created on my database. I don't want to populate it like a million producers or records because of my unit testing. So what I'm going to do after I have finished with my test methods is to remove them from the table that I have created, or just and close my connection, save my changes first and then close my connection, and that would be it. That would be the main structure for my test class. Right, following with the main structure of the test class, I will present the test cleanup. As I was saying, if you want to test a method that requires information from the database, what you could do instead of query that information directly in your test method, what you could do is in the test initialize, go to your methods inside of your test class to create the object that you already need. In this case, for example, I need to create a company, and what I'm gonna do is to create that company with all the fields that are required in the database. And what I just need is the ID, maybe the name of the company to identify it in the database. And well, here I'm just creating this company object. I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna add it to the the database, and then here I'm putting this flag in true in order to know that this object has been created. But and then I'm going to pass to the test method. I'm gonna use this company. I'm gonna know if the test pass or not. And then what I'm gonna do with this object that I have already created, I cannot be creating a lot of objects in the database just to test one method each time that I can build my solution. So what I'm gonna do is at the end of this test class, move on, I can put a test cleanup. The test cleanup is going to indicate to the Visual Studio environment before you finish executing or building this test class, you need first to do this thing. What I'm going to do right there with the flag that I had created and I put it in true, I'm gonna say if the company flag was true, I'm going to remove that object from the database, and it's gonna be the same for all the objects that I had created. And then I'm just gonna set the change, and in this way I'm not going to populate the database with a lot of objects that are not really necessary, because it is even a good way to test your database to know how many items do it support, but you can be creating a lot of objects in your database just for testing a method each time that you require it. So the test initialize and the test cleanup are sections that helps to your test class to indicate where it's gonna start, what it's gonna do when it starts, and then where it's gonna finish and what it's gonna do before it finishes. Okay, let's move on to the test methods. We have already seen the main structure of a range, act, and a search section. As I said before, we have to create two methods for each method that we require to test. In many times we could have many variants of the method to fail. So we need to be very smooth and do the test for the thing that we think it's gonna be the most important thing to test. And in this case, I'm doing a test method to know if an object called restaurant cover exists by a company. But in this case particular, I'm putting in the name of the method that it's a null, because I'm expecting that the result doesn't exist or it's gonna be null. So in this case, in my arrived section, I'm creating an ID company which is going to be 0, and I'm creating an extra variable which is called is17 that is equals to 0. Then I move on to the act section. I create another variable to test it in the search section, and it's making reference to the model in the method that I want to test. And if I want if I want to see this method, I'm just move on to this main method, and this is the most important or exciting part of the task when you are working with unit testing. You need to know which is the flow and how does the methods of the developers works in order to know what are you going to test, what are you going to spec, and what you need to send as a parameter in order to let this work. So here is receiving an ID company, an ID from a company. It brings from the database, and it just create a list, and it's what it's going to return a list. So if I'm testing for a list, I cannot expect for a new result, because if the list was empty, it's gonna return me a 0. So the is null answer is not going to be useful for me. Okay, yes, I was here, and right, it returns me a list, and then as I send an ID company which is 0, which obviously doesn't exist in my database, what I'm going to spec is an answer dot r equals, and I'm going to compare the get by company var that has the value that I get from the main method, and then the variable that I created in the arrange section, this empty variable, which is equal to 0. And well, the second method is gonna do the same, but here I'm expecting that I get a result, a full result, or at least one record in my list. So what I'm going to send in the parameter on the act section is not going to be an ID company that doesn't exist, but it's gonna be an ID company of an ID from a company that I have already created in the database. It's gonna be there. I'm pretty sure that it exists. What I'm going to spec is that the list is not gonna be empty. So here's my answer dot are not equal, and this is what I'm receiving from the main method, and comparing to the is empty variable, which is 0. So if it passes, obviously the list is gonna return me one or more records, and it's not gonna be equal to the 0 of the is empty variable. Here in some methods I have a removes, because well, this is just stuff from the model side of the development, where it's just if a restaurant for an ID company, first I need to add that restaurant for the company by an ID, but in order to don't move the data on the database, I need to let the things as they were before. So if I add a restaurant to a company, before I finish that method, I need to take that restaurant out of that company. So I will let the things as they were before. So unit test doesn't have to how can I say this, to affect the solution in the main project, the whole project. Alright, so how this runs? There are two ways to run each test method. The first one, here in the test class, we see this little blue icon, which indicates that the test hasn't been run. So we're just going to click the blue icon and click on run. And there is even another important thing that we could do with the test method, and this is the debugging. And the debugging is very important, and most when a test is failing, you can debug the solution, the test class solution, and see where is this test method failing. Well, this is the first way to create, sorry, to run, but just only one test. But when you have a lot of tests in your solution, it's very difficult to run each one by one. So this is what the test explorer is gonna be helpful for. And here I'm just waiting to do debugging. That is what how you can start your debugging. I'm passing the ID company that I have created, and then the method is called. The method by their side do its stuff, and then I get my answer with my conversion. Here I have 1 in the count, and my SMT is still in 0, but I need to know that those are not equal. So then after they have passed, I just continue with my testing, and it stays in green. Okay, so with the test explorer, this is easier, because here I have all of the tests that are currently in my solution. So what I'm gonna do, instead of run one by one, here these are run all bottom. Obviously, what it does is take all the tests, the unit testing of the solution, and run it. This task, when you run all your unit tests, it doesn't affect your work. Let's say you're working in a controller and you run the unit testing, all the unit tests. You can keep working on your side while the test explorer is doing its job. So here, this is still running. As you could see, the green bar is not full already. One of the, let's put this in a bigger size. One of the greatest things of the test explorer is that you can sort your unit testing by how this is by outcome, how are they coming from the results, by class, and one of the most important that I could consider is by time. You can sort your results by time, and it will help you to know which unit testing are taking most time to run than others. That will help you to improve your development, and not even from your side as a tester, as a quality assurance member of the group, but even for the developers, that will help them to know that their methods are taking a lot of time to run, and then they could implement better techniques to do these things faster. Okay, where is the order by?
You can use a test category for the test spreadsheet method for test file.
A test category? Yes, I remember the. But what do you mean? For each class or how?
For each test method. You can, well, not for each, for a group of test methods, you can create a test category.
All right.
You can,
Yes. Yes, you can have your, let's say you have tests for unit tests for a company object, so you can create a category for that for those unit tests, and then another category for a product. Yes, that's correct. Here it is, the group by button. I think this is almost is complete. No. Yes, it is complete. Before explaining the yellow ones, here is how you can group your unit tests. Here is by class. As you could see, I have a lot of classes of this unit testing. And the other one, I bar time by duration. This is what I most like, because here you can see which method. For example, this one is taking 12 seconds, which is actually a lot of time for a process, and it's sorted by an descending order. Here are the most fastest, and by outcome, how they are coming from the results. I can see what it says. Oh, yeah, that's the thing that's what's saying about the category. As I don't have a category right here, I can see them grouped by those categories, and then finally by project. Actually, I just have one project here, but this is the project of the of the testing, not this project. So here I can create a lot of testing projects in order to have a better understanding of what those unit testing are for, and then what others are for. Okay. Okay, so well, here we can see yellow icons. What these unit testing are? Well, we have two levels that we can specify for methods that are already inconclusive, or that we know that they are already not done yet by the developer side. And what we do in the unit testing is say at the top of the method, up of the test method text, we're putting a label of ignore. This ignore, what it's gonna do is it's gonna take in mind that little method. You can put a comment to know why are you ignoring that test method, but it's in the test explorer is going to consider it. So here you can see that you already have in this case 5 unit test methods that are inconclusive or are pending to do because of your comment. Let's say it's not done yet, or it has no reference, something like that. So instead of letting those methods away and taking in another time, you can forget them, and you will never gonna test them. You put a label of ignore, and the test explorer is going to mark that little test in the results, and then you could see that you have been pending that method, and talk to your developers, and then work on this task. And what I haven't showed is how this works when some unit test fails. So here, let's say I have my answer dot are not equal. What I'm gonna do is say answer are equal. I'm gonna save. I need to build the solution. And as I build the solution, I need to rerun the test to see the result. I hope it doesn't take it. Which I'm changing. It's,
It's not one.
sorry?
It's not one.
This one?
No, no. It was that. Why?
Markers on the life company.
Which is the right ID. The count should be one.
Article. Yeah, here should be one. One is obviously not equal to. So what we could do is debugging to see what's happening there. Okay, something's happening there because it's not entering to the method. No, I'm gonna quickly try with this one. I think it's not building the right solution. Okay, there it is. Yeah, it wasn't the right solution. Okay, so here we can see the icon is red right now, even in the test explorer. Okay, to take out the window of the test explorer, we're going to move to the main menu. Here is test. We can run all the tests from right here, or from the directly from the Windows. In Windows, here is Text Explorer, and here we can see we just run the one test method. Here is its results, and here it says what is the state trace, or what is the source, the reason why it failed. So it takes us to the place where the test method is, and we need to, as I did a few seconds ago, to debug the method in order to know what's going on right there. All right, so another important tool that it's been integrated in Visual Studio 2013 is the code coverage window. This is very helpful because you can see the percentage of your test cover. But in order to take those results, first of all, you need to run all your tests, and then after that you have run all your tests, you go to the main menu in Test, Analyze Code Coverage, and then you can run the selected tests, or in this case, all the tests. And as in the unit testing, when you are running all the tests, you can keep working on whatever you're doing in Visual Studio, while the test coverage, the code coverage, is being doing by in a backend side of the visual environment. Code coverage. Here it is. Before the code coverage results can be displayed, the test needs to be run completely, so the code coverage could be made right completely, and then we could see what are we covering, what are we missing. In this case, as I told you before, the important thing of the unit testing is not to test all of the methods that we have, but just the most important that we consider. In this case, in this MVC application, I'm just testing the models, which I have considered the most important source of the code that I need to test. Okay, let's see how it's going. In the meantime, we can create shortcuts to run our test, to run failed tests, to run the tests that haven't been run. Oh, this is not visible, but here in test menu in run, we have the options to run of tests, run failed tests. In this case, I have two failed tests. Run the tests that haven't been run. Okay, no, it's not complete yet. And well, in the meantime, another option from the Test Explorer, very important for us in the testing side. Here is this option to run the test after each build. This will help us because as our team, as we are doing changes constantly, what we do is do we're building our solution, but we leave the Test Explorer window by another side, and we just focus on what are we doing. So this option is very important for the quality assurance, because you can have your Test Explorer window open in other side and in other monitor, I don't know, and you can still do your work. You build your work, and then after you build this your solution, your model, your controller, the test will run automatically, and you will be able to see if some tests didn't pass, that it has already passed in a previous version, and then you could realize that something is wrong, something has been changed, and then you could go fix it as soon as possible. Okay, we are missing this one. There it is. And here, after the test have been run completely, I have my code coverage result. This is my project. Well, here I'm most interested on the business process models. Here it is, business process and my models. I can sort this by the percentage of covered blocks, or what I must use, the percentage of the code by descending. Why? Because here I'm gonna be most interested in these methods in particular, because they have the 100%. Better said, the 100% of the code haven't been touched. So what I need to do is work on those methods in order to let them, as I have this method down here, which just have the 2% of the code covered. Talking about numbers of percentage, we don't need to cover the 100% of any test, of any model, of any class. We just the standard is to cover up to the 75-80% of the code. When we have more than the 80%, that's the best practice that we could have in the unit test. So it is not really necessary to cover the 100% of the code like I have here. And there are another tools in online that we could download. It just helps us to graphically know how much are we covering by colors. But even in Visual Studio 2013, they have that little tool to know which code are we covering and which we are not. We just have to click right here, and it's gonna show the code coverage by coloring. And let's move on and say, okay, I have not covered this. Where my these methods, and I'm gonna move right there, and here I can see my main class, what I need to test. All the methods are in red color. Here, this is customizable. You can customize the color of the code coverage that haven't been covered, that has been covered. In this case, I have red for not covered and green for the already covered. Here is an example with both of the colors. In some cases, you will not be able to cover all of the methods because there are things that are very particular and you can handle with those methods. So it will be in red for the rest of the project. But there are others that you can cover. So they will be colored in a green. That's my color that I have already set before. Okay, finally I'm gonna move to the unit testing at the database level. In order to do that, I'm gonna create a new project. This is gonna be quickly for a database project. And what I'm going to do is going to file new project. I'm gonna move to SQL Server database project. I'm gonna call it unit testing and set OK. And then in order to have my database to test, I need to import it to my Solution Explorer. Let's take this out here. Well, let's just wait a second. Here I'm going to my Solution Explorer, right click on my unit testing project, and let's say import a database. I'm going to choose the connection of the database that I'm going to implement. If it's not here, we can create a new connection. Fortunately, mine is already here. And that will be it. I just need to click start. Let it just a few seconds to import all the database that I need. And to take advantage of this, talking about time, we could just take the database that we are going to use instead of taking a lot of tables or databases that we are not interested on. But even there, this could take maybe longer than a minute, but no more. Well, let's just wait to this thing completely charge. It's taking longer. There it is. I'm gonna click on finish. Here quickly I'm just gonna fix some little issues that are in the current security folder. Okay, so what we are most interested on is in the, we're going to view, and here we have SQL Server Object Explorer. And so as I said before, as I have just created a project, here I'm going to click projects. I have my only unit testing project right here. I'm going to move to programmability, store procedures, and here I have a store procedure. Quickly I'm going to explain with this store procedure does. It takes a company, an ID company, and it creates another two tables with all of the data from that company. So at the end, it retrieves just a number. This number represents the total of the amount of, or the amount of errors that have been found in the store procedure. So I'm gonna take a right click, create unit test. I'm just doing for this store procedure. Here I'm going to project, create a new Visual C# test project. I'm gonna call it company test, SQL company test. I'm gonna click OK. And here again, once again, I'm gonna choose my database connection. You just need to select it, and I'm gonna click OK. So what I'm most interested in this part is not gonna be the main class in the C#, but it's gonna be a designer view. Here I have my main, let's say my main execute of my store procedure. I'm gonna move this out of here. In order to my store procedure works correctly, I need to delete a couple of tables, the tables that are gonna be populated with this store procedure. And okay, here we have three sections. This is not like the arrange, act, and assert section from the unit testing. This is a pre-test, test, and a post-test. So as I said before, this store procedure takes an ID from a company. So here, let's say the ID is the next one, and what I could do in the pre-test, we're just going to select pre-test, click here to create. I need to make sure that this company already exists. So what I can do is do a select all from company where ID is equals to 4472. Now, how am I going to know if this passes or not? Here down, I have the test conditions, and there are different test conditions that we can find right here. There is a round count, scalar value. So in this case, I just need to know that at least exists. Sorry, that my company exists. So what I'm gonna choose is the not empty result set. I just select this, and click on Add button. This test condition, as many other things, has its properties. Where is the properties window? This class notification. This control. Here it is. And what I can do is set the result that I'm expecting. In this case, the value says result 1 must have at least one row, and that's what I'm expecting from that query. And then I'm gonna move on to the test section, and I'm gonna execute my store procedure with that company that I have already queried in the pre-test. And here by default is selected this inconclusive test condition. I'm gonna remove it, and what I'm expecting from this store procedure is that my error count is equals to 0. So I'm going to select the test condition of scalar value. I'm gonna add it, and in the properties, the expected value needs to be 0. Alright, and finally I can do a post test. So with this step procedure, it's gonna populate the bar C and bar CS tables. So what I can do right here is I select all from any of those tables. Let's say select all from bar C. Okay, and my test condition is gonna be a round count, and here I would like that. Okay, here I should know how many rows this table has, so I won't implement this one. I'm going to implement the not empty result, where at least I should have one row. And well, I can be pretty sure that bar CS table is gonna be empty, because here before executing the stop procedure, I'm deleting it. Okay, so in order to work with this, I'm gonna go to the main menu, build the solution. An important thing is the unit test for SQL Server data objects. It's all in one. The pre-test, the test, and the post-test is gonna be treated like a one unit test. So if the pre-test, the test, or the post-test fails, the whole unit test is going to fail. So once I have built the solution, I'm gonna move on to my test explorer. Asset test explorer. Here it is. My test method for my store procedure. I'm gonna click right click and run selected test. Okay, and here it's telling me that it didn't pass because method SQL company test bars calculation. I think I did a mistake on my writing. ID company test. Oh no, I guess it was here. Free test. Company. There it is. Well, that could be an example of how it could crash. It's the same as the other unit test. In the test explorer, it's gonna show you a red icon when it fails. In order to load it again, we're gonna build the solution again. Right click, run selected test. What's going on there again? Company where ID equals.
No, it's bar CS.
Okay, let's see. Let's see. RC. Let's be sure. RC. RCS. Alright. Let's begin again. Something is wrong again. Sorry? It's just very typical bars calculation test. Delayed from. It's okay. Let's select all from company. I think it should be correct. Just to see. Okay. Okay, let's move to test. Move the rock count. Let's move the total is one. Scalar value. Alright, I think here the procedure has changed. Let's say the wrong count and properties. Continuously at least one. It's almost the same. Let's go. It's 39. Overclock, but it should work. Work code. Okay, let's build it again. One more time. And there it is, finally. A mistake on my writing. So as you could see, all these three tests have to pass in order to let the whole unit test for, in this case, for this stop procedure, could pass the execution of the unit test. And here you can see there are a lot of options, but the most common are that you could have a result with at least one row count when you're expecting not to receive any row, or when you're expecting a specific value, you can select the scalar value and add it to the test condition. Here you can add as many conditions as you wish, but once again, the better idea of this is use as less test conditions as you can, because the main object of the unit testing is to test just for one thing and just for one expected thing that you know that this is going to work. Okay, so I think that will be it for this training. I don't know if any of you have any questions, comments. I don't know, something.
In your experience, do you have problems with this database level?
That if I had before, or what? Oh yeah, because in the first times that I start with the unit testing, what I was trying to do is take the data that I needed. Let's say, for example, in this case, the ID of a company. What I used to do, I did a query for retrieving an ID from a company. Then I put it in the Act section. I send it as a parameter, and then I expect a result. But if you take data from the database, uh, you could never know if that row, if that information is going to be deleted, because you're not the only one that are working on the database. So there are two options. The first one is to by yourself create your own objects, your own data objects, work with them, and the efficiency of the unit test is that you can run a test method in less than a second. So the probability that someone else could manipulate your own data, your own object, is almost null. So you can create your own objects, work with them. You know what have you created. You know that it already exists there, and you can delete it after the test method. But there is another option. Here, most of the projects have to work with implementing interfaces. If you are implementing interfaces on most of the project, you can implement what is called the mods in this version called the the Fakes framework. The Fakes framework, what does is it recreates, let's say, a fully copy of the entire data section, and then you can manipulate and play with those objects with that data, but it's not gonna be the original one. It's just a replicate of the original, and you can do whatever you want with that data because it's just a fake, as its name says. But it's very important that if you are going to work with the Microsoft Face, with the mocks, you need to talk with your team, with the developer team, and say we're going to work with the Microsoft Face. You all need to work implementing interfaces in order to I can create the Microsoft Face and the unit test. It's gonna be less. Um, it won't require any external resource than you just have right here. Okay. Anything else? Okay, so that will be for today for this training. Hope you like it, and thank you for watching it. And have a good afternoon. Goodbye.